Now that you've seen the presentation and how very professionally it is put together, we did that really so that when you go to the schools, you can say that I'm a parent of a child with a disability, but all of the information I'm going to be presenting was put together by the Tourette Syndrome Association on this PowerPoint. What Judy and I are going to do now is to give some tips about presenting, just talk about how to actually use the CD and put it into the computer. There will be time, I'm going to go over some slides to talk about the mechanics of it, so you'll see some on your handouts that you can use when you get home as a further guide. So we want to start out by introducing ourselves. My name is Kathy Giordano, and I work at the Tourette Syndrome Association. I'm a parent of a 25-year-old son with Tourette syndrome. I've been doing presentations for about 20 years. Anybody who knew me prior to 20 years would be shocked that I'm a presenter now. I was the shyest, quietest person. My best friend in college said that I didn't want to blend into the wallpaper, I wanted to be the wallpaper. So the very first time I presented, I was sort of tricked into it. I thought I was going to a meeting to talk about how parents could present. When all of a sudden I got there and they said, okay, see these 100 students that, you know, it was one of those stadium auditoriums. You're presenting to these 100 students. And I excused myself and went to the ladies' room for a minute. And I came back and presented and was hooked. So if you think you're too shy to present, you're not. If you have fears about presenting, everybody does. And we're going to help you get through that.
My name is Judy Peterson, and I'm the mother of an adult son with Tourette syndrome. He's 34. Since 1994, I've been a volunteer with the Arizona chapter of Tourette Syndrome Association, and I've been doing in-service presentations on Tourette's. So it took me 22 years from the time I graduated from college with a degree in public speaking to 1994 when I could start using those skills I learned. But it isn't the college training that makes me comfortable about doing this, it's just doing it over and over again. It's the repetition. And the first thing I thought I had when I knew we were going to be doing a presentation that anyone could use is we also need to give them lots of tips and help and information so they feel comfortable doing this presentation. And that's where we're coming from today. So the very first thing we do whenever we have a presentation planned is we have had a contact with someone. Either we have initiated it or someone has called us. It might be a friend who has a child with Tourette's and is asking you to do this in-service for him or her, or the other way around. You may be doing it for your own child. And so the first thing you need to do is when you have that contact with the person that can actually make the arrangements, set up secure that date and time and place. And have that all set down. If nothing else, have that set down on the very first contact. And then you should collect the information like just which school will I be at, what's the name of the school, what's the address, how do I get there, where do I park. I use MapQuest sometimes because sometimes they can't really describe too well the names of the streets their schools are on or the name of the street to turn on. So I don't really rely too much on the directions they give. I go onto the computer. Get the name and number of that contact person when you're on the telephone so you can get back to them. And if possible, get their cell phone number. I usually do get given a cell phone number for the contact person, and it might be a school psychologist, a social worker, sometimes a teacher, but they often have their phones right with them, so that works well. And then I try to get a little bit of information about the audience. Are these all the fifth grade teachers? Are these all the teachers from a certain building? Will people be coming in that are school psychologists or school social workers? Just gives me a little bit more information about my audience, which always makes you a little bit more comfortable. I get a little more comfortable if I know what to expect. If I'm going to have 5 people or I'm going to expect 25. They'll usually tell me there'll be about 35 people there, and of course when we actually get down to the after-school meeting, there might be 10. But prepare for the most, and then you'll be calmer when you finally get there. And then, is there a particular child in the school that you have questions about, how to handle circumstances of a child with Tourette syndrome or not? And there's various reasons I hear. Sometimes it is, well, yeah, we have a 5th grader, and they don't usually offer the name of the child, and that's just fine, because I really don't want to talk about a specific child anyway. So don't ask any more questions about that. But then sometimes, the most recent presentation I did, it was a school psychologist that said, I'm at a new school, we have 1,000 children here, and there's not a single identified Tourette syndrome child. I kind of think there are some. So the faculty here, I'd like them to have a presentation. So there's very different reasons. So now you've got your appointment set up. I always suggest confirming that appointment one time. The one time I didn't, I was on the way to the school and made a phone call, just verifying a couple of things. Lo and behold, I had one Wednesday afternoon in my scheduler, and they had put the previous Wednesday afternoon in their scheduler. So guess who didn't show up? And that didn't look good for our chapter. It was very disappointing. That happened once, and it's never happened since. Okay, now we have to practice. You've got your appointment. It's time to practice. This is a new piece, and you're going to have to spend some time on it the first time. I'm at the point now, although this is new for me too, but I'm at the point now that I have my little stories, I have my information. I'm kind of a mini Sue Connors, you know, because after 14 years I have accumulated some things to say, but I still need practice too, and I need to practice out loud. And you'll want to, if you're not used to speaking, you're going to want to hear your voice. I suggest recording yourself with a recorder or video camera that's several feet away from you, so you know how you're coming across. How far does your voice naturally project? If you sound harsh, or if you sound anxious or weak, and if you're emotionally involved, sometimes you do sound anxious or harsh. Try smiling when you're talking. It changes the way you're speaking when you try to smile as you talk. It comes across better. You can hide how you're feeling, and you don't have to get stuck on anger. And then practice the beginnings and the endings of your talk. The introduction of yourself. How do you want to describe yourself? As a mom, as the mom of a child with Tourette's, as a friend of someone with Tourette's, or as a member of the Tourette Syndrome Association. Practice that, and also endings. I'm going to tell you later how you have to remember to say thank you before and after and during this presentation, to let them know that you're very grateful that they're taking this time, full schedules and schools, that you're taking this time to, they're taking this time to let you make this presentation. Okay, and then we're going to talk about equipment. Kathy's the techie, and she the first time that I actually had the opportunity to use a laptop, I thought it was so great. I had a laptop, I had the CD, and got to the school, hooked it all up, and turned it on, and nobody could hear a thing because we didn't have any speakers. I never thought of that. So Kathy's going to take us through that.
Yeah, and even though I'm taking you through the technical part, it really is easy. They've made it simple, and you know, you're going to have the guide to take with you to help out too. The practicing the beginning and the end, very frequently I'll practice the beginning of the presentation as I'm driving there. It just gets me a little more comfortable about what I'm going to be saying, and as Judy said, I try to practice the end as well. Equipment. Oftentimes schools will have the equipment that you need. When you call up to make an appointment, ask them. Ask them if they have a laptop and a projector. Ask them, make sure you ask about speakers, because as you saw, there is the video in there that you will need to project in order to have, and you'll need speakers to do that. If they don't have the equipment, then you'll have to bring your own. But make sure you bring an extension cord. Too many times I've gotten to places and the plug is way over there and the screen is way over there, so we're frantically searching around for an extension cord. Practice the beginning of the PowerPoint. When you get home, take the CD, put it in, and practice starting the presentation up. Practice going through the presentation with the arrows on your laptop or your computer. The arrows will get you to the next slide. Practice on the video clips. Go to the slide with the video clips, but in order to practice having the video clip start up, you will need to be in the presentation mode. So if you're just going through the presentation in just a normal view, the videos aren't going to work. So don't panic if you're going through and the video isn't working. All it means is that you're not in the slideshow mode. So you'll have to do that. Practice adjusting the volume. Lots of times I've adjusted the volume before I leave, and the magic of computers, by the time I get to the school, somehow the volume has gotten soft. And if I haven't checked it, then I'm trying to fix the volume during the presentation. And practice reading the script along with the PowerPoint. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to go through a couple of the slides here that will show you copy of the note pages with the script that you're going to be using for your presentation, and how to copy handouts for the audience. Every time I do a presentation, I bring copies of the slides because, as many of you are doing, you're taking notes right along with the slides. It's just a whole lot easier. They don't have to write everything down. They've got the copies of the slides. When you're making the contact with the school, ask them if they'll make copies of the slides for you, and most times they will. So you can either just send them a hard copy, or you can email them a copy of the handouts. Okay, this is an example of how you would print the note page. You would go to, this is in Windows. I happen to have Vista, so I have examples of both how to do it on Windows and Vista. This one is the Windows. You go to View, and then you scroll down to Note Page. This is how it would look on Vista. Again, you go to View, and then you go over to the Note Page. And the red arrows are showing you where the View and the Note Pages are. This is what the Note Page will look like. See how you have the slide up above and the script is down below. So when you go to View and you click on Note Page, that's what will show. Okay, so now you want to print the note pages, because while you're presenting, you either want to have the notes, the script all written out like you have. I like to have the script and the slide, so you would want to print out the note pages. because that allows me to see what slide I'm on. It gives me a hard copy of the slide along with the script, and that is something that I personally like. So you would go to the View Note page and then Print. Okay, now when you get to the Print page, this is important because if you get to the Print page and you click OK, what you're going to get is just the slides. You're going to get one slide on one piece of paper. So in order to make sure that what you're printing is the note pages, go down on the side. You see where it says print what? And you'll, on your computer, that little arrow over to the right-hand side will let you scroll down and print what note pages. And then right underneath that is the color. And you're going to want to usually just do it in black and white. I'm kind of cheap, and it saves my, my printer that way if I do it in the black and white. Okay, when you want to print the handouts, you'll do the same thing. You'll go to View, and then you'll go to Handouts, and then to Print. And again, you're going to want to go to Print What? Handouts. And then you want to do the pure black and white again. And the arrow in the middle of the page, how many slides do you want on each page? You can have 9, which if you do 9, nobody will be able to read it because the slides are too tiny. You can do 6, you can do 4, you can do 3. The one that you have here is 4. If you do 3, you'll see the slides that you've had all day long where there's 3 slides and then it has the lines next to it for you to write on. So just, you can choose how many slides per page. And the little box to the right of that actually is a view of how it'll print out. So if you have 6, that little box over there would have 6 little slides. And then you click OK, and it'll print your handouts for you. But make sure you ask the school if they'll do your handouts for you, because it can get a little pricey if you do it yourself. Checking the volume. Again, this is really an important thing to do. You may want to buy some really inexpensive little speakers to bring with you, because a lot of schools either won't have the speakers available, or the techie guy is off someplace and nobody knows where the speakers are. If you're going to speak in a larger auditorium, you'd want to ask if there's house speakers like we have here. When you saw the video clip, it was hooked up to the speakers that they had, and so it comes across nice and loud. If Sandra and I were talking the other day, and we both had this happen, we've gone to presentations and we could not get the volume to work no matter what we did. And you know, we're pushing and clicking and if that happens to you, if all else fails, turn the computer off and start again. Lots of times that will cue up the volume. Here's a slide, and the red arrow way down in the side is pointing to a little tiny speaker. And when you do your volume check, you're going to want to go over to that little speaker and click on that, and that'll show you where your computer speakers, the volume are, and usually you want it at 100%. Okay, I'll turn it back to Judy.
Okay. All right, so presentation day, no, today is the day to pack up, and I suggest doing that the day before presentation day. Gives yourself some time to think about things. First thing I would pack up is my equipment if I was going to be bringing my own, plus the CD, and probably a good idea to have a second one as a backup, because you never know. Have your handouts with you. Now what I bring on a presentation is, now I'll be bringing the slide, a handout. I've never done that before, but it's I can see that it works very well. But I also bring a packet with me. Now, I'm a volunteer for my chapter. The chapter wants me to do this, so we've downloaded everything we could buy from National, and I make a copy for the particular school I'm going to of everything that I think is pertinent for them. And if there's a recent article or something, I will copy that too. And then I'll put it in a folder and bring it with me to the school, one copy of everything. And then I suggest that they keep it in the nurse's office or in the school psychologist's office and let all the teachers know that it's there. They can check it out and go through it if they get a student with Tourette syndrome. And I tell them they're free to copy that too. And then I always pack a bottle of water. And I always have it with me. And it's not just because I have a chronically dry mouth. It's because if I get one of those killer questions from the audience, like, how do I know Johnny is doing this because it's Tourette's? How do I know if it's Tourette's or if it's just him being bad? And I'll go, let's see. Gives me a little time to think, gives me a little time to slow myself down and let them know I don't have a automatic answer. And then I proceed to tell them we don't know anyway. So, but that's why I pack a bottle of water. Then also make sure you have a wristwatch because, as Susan pointed out to me once, the school clock is always behind your head if you're standing at the front of a classroom. Or in another room in the school, or it's not there at all because we don't want students watching the clock. But bring yourself a big-faced watch so you can keep track of your time because they will very much appreciate it if you only use your allotted time. And also, then you'll know how much time you're using up. And then another thing I pack up and bring with me is a chapter information sheet, which includes my own contact information because I want them to feel free to call me in that school district to do another in-service the same year, the next year, whatever. And so our chapter has a whole page we filled up. It includes the synopsis of what Tourette's is at the top. It has all of our board members' names, and then at the bottom it has the names of the people they can contact in our chapter for information. We have one person that usually takes legal calls. I take the education calls. Someone else takes support groups. There's a person per support group. So we give them all that contact information in the schools. And sometimes I'll make enough copies for everyone in the school to have that if I think they already have a student with Tourette syndrome and I want them to make sure they have the information. So that is always very happily received by the people. And make sure you pack your smile too, because that's one of your best items to bring with you. It de-escalates any kind of thing that will be gone. It calms them down and makes sure that you're not just be super intense or super angry about something that's happened at school. It makes everybody relax. You have to do that. Okay, the next one is the day of presentation is here. I suggest dressing professionally. You don't want to be dressed down from your general audience. Even though I know like Fridays are casual day and everybody's wearing jeans, I tend not to do that. I tend to dress a little more professionally. Casual professional is okay if you think most of your audience is going to look like that. Usually the schools I go into, the principals are dressed a little less casually than their teachers, and I try to dress like the female principal does in that school. It gives me confidence. It isn't just that I look better. It actually makes me feel more in charge of my own talk. And then I arrive in plenty of time. I give myself extra time to get to the school, usually 30 minutes extra time, because inevitably I'll have to make a left turn where there's no legal left turn. So I'll have to, add a few miles or maybe to my drive. I suggest listening, or Kathy actually makes a suggestion to listen to pump it up music while you're driving to your school. Don't listen to the, processionals or anything. Listen to My favorite is Josh Groban. I like Josh Groban, so I'll do that. It calms me, actually. But if
I
you're...
like Jeremiah was a bullfrog.
That's... I like that, too. Yeah.
Old.
And you could practice in your car when you're driving there. Make sure your voice is okay that day. If you don't have any laryngitis, I can be at home all morning and not have a person to talk to, so who knows what I sound like when I start talking. And then when you get to your site and you're all set up, because you have to get all that equipment set up, I suggest chatting with the person that maybe met you at the door, or the person that is your contact person, whoever is there in the room with you, just casually while the rest of the people are coming in. It relaxes you and gives you a little connection with your audience. And you're going to be nervous, but use it. Use your nervousness. Give yourself, it's a zing to you, and it'll pump you up a little bit more, and it'll make you be energized with your information. So don't be afraid of that feeling. Even after all these years when I give talks, even when I'm not being videotaped, I get a little jumpy and a little nervous sometimes, depending upon my audience. And I just use that. I don't let it get in my way. And let's see, I think, Kathy, we're going to have you toggle for us.
Toggle. Arriving 30 minutes early, as Judy said, is really important. Whether or not you have your own equipment if you have your own equipment to set up, it's really important to get there 30 minutes early. But even if they're providing the equipment, it's still important, because there's always equipment failure. There's always the possibility that something's going to be not working right. When you get there, make sure that the PowerPoint is that the screen is on your computer as well as up on the screen. And if it's not, then there's this word toggle. And the first time I heard the word toggle, I was in Arizona, and it was 110 outside, and Sue and I were there doing a presentation, and lo and behold, I could not get the PowerPoint up on the screen. And so I frantically called my friend back in New York City, or in New York State, and said, Pam, what do I do? She said, toggle. I don't know from toggle. So I wanted to put this in here first so that you'd know the word, in case anybody ever says it to you. And what it is, it's toggling is when you're syncing up the computer with the projector. And it's always a good idea to turn the computer on first, because as soon as you turn the projector on, the projector is immediately looking for syncing up with something. So if your computer's on, lots of times that'll work. But if it's not, and you do need to toggle, I've got a picture of a screen here. Now, usually, and how computers, no computer is the same. But typically, the FN button, and it'll be in blue, or it'd be in a different color, might not be blue, but it usually says FN, and it's down in the left-hand corner. And you want to push that button and the button up on your top row. And sometimes it'll have a picture of a computer. Sometimes it'll have some letters that I'm forgetting that mean computer and projector. CRT, yes. That's your toggle button too. So it'll have something that'll indicate that it's a projector of some sort. And what do you want to do? And I'm going to do it now. Hopefully it'll work. Okay, I toggled once. Now, you can still see it, but it's not on my screen. So I'm going to toggle again. And now I can see it, but it's not up there. Once again. Yay, magic. It worked. It's on, yes, thank you. It's on both screens. But see how I took my time in between? Don't do what I'm tempted to do. If something's not working, I panic and I start pushing. Don't do that. Toggling takes time. So let the computer have time to toggle.
Kathy?
Yeah.
The other common function key at the top is also F8.
F8, yeah, I've seen that on F8, yeah. So I think either F4 or F8 are probably the two typical ones. Okay, now that you know how to toggle, I'll turn it back over to Judy.
I still haven't learned how, but.
And really, if you don't know, we're going to have time afterwards. And running this program is so simple once you just do it. So please, come up here. We're going to have people helping you. It's so easy to do.
And by the way, the script, I wanted to say, it's okay to read. It's okay to read from note cards when you're talking. It's okay to read from notes on your script. That's all right. Eventually, you'll feel comfortable about putting it into your own words. We just wanted to make sure we had the best amount of information we could get into a 30-minute presentation. We really wanted to hold it down. That's why we have a script. But if you feel like you have the time, it's just fine to start doing things in your own word. But you can read. I'm going to read right now. Remember, you know more about your topic than anyone else in the room. That's the very first thing you can assure yourself of. You can share some stories. I always do share stories about my son. First of all, he's given me permission to do that. And he doesn't live near where I live in the same state or anything. And he never went to school where I live. So I'm safe and he's safe, and I do tell stories about him and when there's time. But it's good to remember to be objective. You're there to educate. You're not advocating with this particular piece. You are there to educate. So give the information, okay? Don't give all the stories and the grief you've been through with your child. This isn't the time for that. It will also give you in trouble if your emotions start to come into play and you won't be able to talk. After 25 years, I can talk about some of those emotional times without the tears, believe it or not, even though I was in the very same place some of you are in now as far as being just overwhelmed. But keep it as far as it, as a matter of fact, in 1994, when I joined our chapter, I had just moved to Arizona, and I contacted our chapter, and they asked me about speaking. And I got a phone call from one of the members of our chapter who said, now you're going to be advocating when you go out and do these speeches. And I said, well, I don't think so. I think I want to just educate, because people need to learn what Tourette's is all about. And we had quite a discussion about that, but I held firm, and I found out later that my board backed me up as far as that was their feeling too. So educate. Don't apologize for your presentation. Don't apologize, because you have credibility and you don't owe them any apologies. The audience wants you to succeed as a speaker too. They're not there to watch you fall on your face. They're there, they want to hear a good talk, and they expect that, and you've got credibility from the beginning. Pick out people in your audience, someone on the left, someone in the middle, someone on the right, and speak to them so that you know that you're getting good visual contact, eye contact with your audience. That'll help if you plan on that ahead of time. And maybe they're people you already know, but just it helps you to keep your eyes moving around and looking more interesting. Use people-first language. We don't have the Tourettic child. We don't have a Touretter. We don't have, well, we have a student with Tourette syndrome, okay? They're not Touretters, not Tourettic. We have to use people-first language. Avoid using a laser printer. For obvious reasons, you'd be shaking.
Not printer,
and a laser pointer, I'm sorry, thank you. A laser pointer, don't use them, because that'll just most of the time they'll be going all over the place, and when you do point them, you may have a shaking hand, and you don't want them to see that, so just don't use them. Usually you don't have a group large enough to need that anyway. And I wouldn't darken a room when you're using this. It's usually not necessary, and after the long day at school, teachers might just take the opportunity to nod off, so you don't want that to happen. You may get negative questions, some that are of a negative nature. Try not to get defensive when you get those kinds of questions. Understand they're probably having a difficult time with someone in a classroom and they don't have any idea what to do about it. And they're not taught about, teachers aren't taught about Tourette syndrome in college or anyplace else. We always expect that the educator knows what to do for our child, even if we don't, and that's not true with Tourette syndrome. So kind of educate them, don't put them down if they're negative towards. Only one time, excuse me, there's only one time when I heard a negative response to a negative question from an audience, and I was assisting a school superintendent, actually. She was a superintendent for a special program, special school in Arizona, and we went to another school district, and I was with her, and one of the teachers in the room said, "Don't you think these kids are just from families of drinkers and drug users?" And her response was, "Please don't do that to our children." And that was the most negative thing I've ever heard, but that was a nice way of her to handle it, and I've never forgotten it, in case I ever get that comment again, but I've never have. So, also want to say that the Pledge of Allegiance exercise sometimes makes you a little nervous. Here you are asking this classroom of teachers to take out a pencil and paper, and that's not a situation you would think you would be in. They didn't probably expect that of you either, that they'd be having to write something out for you, having a little assignment coming from you, but don't skip it. I've had the feeling sometimes where some of the people I was talking to are a little put off by having to do it, but the giggles started coming around the room as they were going through the exercise, and they were just, different reactions from people, and everybody loosened up. Pretty much, it went fine. And some people are just more reserved than others, but it went well. Don't skip it, because that is really the best learning experience that they'll have. It's not something they've just had to hear. It's something they've actually participated in. That might be the only thing they remember of your presentation, but it's a very good thing to remember, so don't skip it. And Kathy, also I wanted to say that this is not a time to get on your soapbox either. Even, no preaching. Don't try to preach to the faculty. They're not going to be ready for that, or to whoever your audience is. And Kathy was going to talk about
staying positive?
Presenting to parents, which I rarely do.
Oh yeah, we had talked about who was going to talk about this, and many times I go and I will talk to parents. Lots of times you may get tempted to get caught up in the, sometimes it's a negative, almost a mob mentality of hanging the teachers, or, let's go burn down the school. Don't let yourself get caught up in that. That's not productive. We're there to learn about Tourette. We're there to learn about how we can partner with the school. So try not to let yourself get caught up in that. And as a presenter of many years, I try hard not to focus on the one person that falls asleep during my presentation. Not to focus on the person that is clearly not in agreement with what I'm saying. Forget them. There's the other 65 people that are enjoying it. There's the people that will come up to you afterwards and tell you what a good job you've done, how interesting it was, how much I've learned. Take their thank yous and their gratitude graciously. You deserve it, you've done a good job, you're a brave person for getting up and doing this, and you're making a huge difference. When I present, I try to think about the ripple effect. If I present to 10 people that are going to work with 100 kids over the next 3 or 4 years, how many kids are they going to be impacting? How many teachers are going to be seeing how they're working in a more positive way? How many people are they going to be telling? We don't know the ripple effect from doing these presentations. We're very passionate about getting this presentation out to you guys so that more presentations can occur, because that's what it's about. Educating people about Tourette syndrome really is the answer. Again, I've been an advocate for a long, long time. It's educating people that's the most important. And I think one of the most important things about presenting is enjoy yourself. If you're having fun during your presentation, they're going to have fun. It's contagious. The information that you're providing is positive, it's upbeat, enjoy what you're doing, be relaxed. People want you to be successful. Every time you go and present and you're nervous and you're going to get up there to be in front of them, know that every single person in that audience wants you to be successful. Nobody comes to a presentation thinking, boy, I hope this person is really boring. I hope this person is really just a lousy presenter. They want you to be successful. If you forget a word, don't worry about it. Move on. It really, actually, there's sometimes when I forget words on purpose. If I feel like the audience is kind of falling asleep on me, I'll say, oh, you know that word, it's sort of like, and then it re-engages the audience with you. So don't worry about all that stuff that I think everybody worries about. You know, what if I forget what I'm going to say? Don't worry about that. You got your script. What if the equipment fails? Don't worry about that. You still got your PowerPoint and your script. Don't be afraid about them asking a question that you're not going to know the answer to, because most likely you are going to know. And if you wing it a little bit, they're not going to know anyways, because you know a whole lot more than they do. Plus, refer to the website. Say that I'll get back to you. Letting the teachers know right up front that working with kids with Tourette syndrome is not easy. It's really difficult. Tourette syndrome is a very complex disorder. There's no easy answers, there's no cookbook. Letting them know that right up front. Yeah, you come in there and you say, I'm not there to blast you. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you try to figure out some ways.
So we hope that not only will you take this CD and go out and use this curriculum, this in-service, we hope you will encourage others in your chapters to do the same.
Absolutely.
Because it's designed for other people that haven't been trained. You can help them via this presentation, but that's what we want. We want to see it go everywhere, and I just want to say doing in-service work is some of the most gratifying that I've ever done in any way. It's very, very rewarding, and anybody that does make the try will enjoy themselves. They really will. It comes out, it comes back to you too when you hear stories about someone in a school that I talked to came back and was talking to another teacher, and I overheard them saying, well, there was this Mrs. Peterson, and she said that they do this because of this. It's very, very gratifying to hear that you actually delivered a message about Tourette syndrome.
You're going to make a difference, so thanks so much for agreeing to be presenters of this in-service, and keep us in mind, and if you have questions, don't be afraid to contact us.